Hello and welcome back to Terrence and Roy at the Movies. This is not Terrence. Boy, what's today? Why, today's Game of Thrones Day. We haven't missed it. This is my friend Matt. Terrence is out of town, but he also watches the Game of Thrones with us every Sunday. So he's sitting in for Terrence today. Matt, let's tell some of the people about you to begin with. First of all, who are a couple of your favorite Game of Thrones characters?
Alive or dead or both?
All of the above.
Oh man. Stannis.
Stannis is a good answer.
Love
Great answer.
Stannis.
You might just be saying that to please me, but yes.
King Snow.
Jon Snow. Jon Snow's good as King of the North, yeah.
I liked Dany up until about this episode.
Yeah, Dany's a terrible person. Nobody likes Dany.
I liked her in the beginning, but not really so much now.
Yeah. No, Dany, yeah. Well, anyway, so that's just some basic background. But I'm going to read off of my notes for this episode because a lot happens in Game of Thrones, and we've been missing stuff the last couple weeks, so I'm going to try to go through it all. First, at the beginning, Jaime had all the gold for the Iron Bank. And really discussing that's kind of a moot point based on what happens later in the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Bronn's there, and Bronn's like, hey, where's my castle? And Jaime's like, you'll get it eventually when we win this war. Which, again, kind of irrelevant given what happens later in the episode. But the Iron Bank is back at King's Landing, and they're like, hey, Cersei, you want to dominate the whole continent, right? And she's like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And they're like, you know what you need for that? You need ships, and you need armies, and you need all this stuff. And you need money to pay for it. And they're like, hey, you need some money? And she's like, yeah, I'm probably going to need to buy those things. And they're like, don't worry about it. We got you. We got all the money you need. As long as your gold gets back here safely. Which it doesn't look like it's going to. I don't think. Probably. Is Dragonfire strong enough to melt gold?
Didn't Jaime say he was already secured in King's Landing?
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I must have missed that. Oh, okay. Yeah. See, this is why we have somebody else paying attention.
I mean, I thought Jaime said it's all secured in King's Landing.
Oh, that's good then. I'm glad you're going to say, what were these?
Things back.
All right, well, I'm glad that's a relief. So they've got the gold. So the Iron Bank is going to help her buy more armies and more ships and everything like that. And it's a decent scene, but a lot of these early scenes of this episode kind of felt more like scenes from like season like 1 or 2. There's a lot of like exposition, a lot of things like that. It didn't super work out, but after that, let's see here. Oh, Baelish was here. It's my favorite part. Last week, during the next time on Game of Thrones, there were the hands holding the Valyrian steel dagger, and we were pretty sure they were Baelish's. We paused the scene and we checked it multiple times, and we were pretty sure they were Baelish's, and they were Baelish's. But of all the things we thought would happen, one thing we didn't think would happen would be Baelish going, here's the dagger they tried to kill you with, Bran. Please take it as a token of my appreciation. As a souvenir for almost dying, please take the dagger that they tried to kill you with. And, yeah.
When that happened, I thought what Sansa said later in the episode, he never does anything unless he expects something in return. I was like, what's he thinking? I have no idea what he's thinking. I mean,
I think people are overanalyzing Baelish to a certain extent. People are always like, what's Baelish doing? What's his next move? I legitimately think that he legitimately loved Catelyn, and that's his main motivation. He obviously wants everything. He wants to rule the kingdom. That's true. But he thinks he can do it through the Stark family. So I think what he was trying to do there was he was trying to get Bran's loyalty. I think it's as simple as that. I don't think he was trying for anything more than that, really. I think he was like, here, I got this for you. So now,
yeah, that's a possibility.
I don't know. I mean, me, psychologically, I feel like if like somebody had tried to assassinate me and then somebody came to me and was like, here's the weapon they tried to assassinate you with, I'd be like, I know there are other weapons out there in the world and somebody else could try to assassinate me, but I do feel safer that this thing trying to kill me is in the room with me now, that I have it and can wield its power.
And I guess Bran knows how important that dagger is in terms of it being made of
it being made of Valyrian steel, but he didn't really seem to care about the dagger at all.
Yeah.
I think he understood in general, but he's so detached at this point. His attitude towards the dagger was basically the attitude of kind of being like, that's a nice dagger, but I've got this wheelchair now and these new psychic powers, so I kind of think that instead of like a dagger, I'm going to go get myself some X-Men and become Professor X. All I need to do is lose the hair, really. That's about it. It seems really good.
I have a question for you, since you know more about the wargs. Do you think Bran was actually doing visions while he was talking to everyone? Because he seemed a bit detached from the situation.
I think he was
coming time. He was somewhere else.
He was like your dad or your grandpa or somebody when there's like a football game on or some sort of sporting event, and you're like, hey, Dad, can I go do this thing? And your dad's like, yeah. and he's not really listening.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, wait, what? Who are you going with? It's like kind of coming in and out, just like, yeah. So that's where I think he was. I think he was like half paying attention to conversation, half watching, psychic vision TV. Really, I think for the most part.
Yeah.
The Maester, though, I have this question about the Maester. I know all Maesters have different skills, and they got the Boy Scout thing where they build the links to their chain, and a link for winning the Derby, and a link for making homemade pot mitts. But I don't know what the Maesters get links for. They get links for all kinds of healing and stuff, but this Maester must have got his crafting link and not his history link, because last episode this Maester said he didn't know much about the past winters. But apparently he knew how to build a wheelchair, so it's kind of a diverse skill. It seems like knowing about the passwords is something a lot of maesters would really know, and it seemed like a weird thing that he didn't know it. But then in contrast, it's just like he knew how to build a wheelchair.
Maester Winterfell didn't know much about winter.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it was the maester they had brought with them from the Vale, because the original maester from Winterfell died. So yeah. Because that Maester knew everything. Maester Lewin, who was originally in Winterfell, he was the one who originally told Bran all the stories about, the White Walkers and everything, so. And the ice spiders, so get ready for ice spiders. That's going to be a thing. Yeah, so. Let's see.
Exciting.
Oh, man. Oh, and then Arya shows up at the gates of Winterfell, and she's like, hey, I'm Arya Stark, and my sister's in there. And the guards are like, a lot of people's sisters are in there. And she's... And then she's like, this isn't Wayne's World, let me in. And so they're like, she's like, I'm going to come in whether or not you want me to. I'm just going to walk right in, and you can either let me, and it could go smoothly. In the words of the villains from Back to the Future 2, we can do this the easy way or the hard way.
Yeah.
The easy way. And then, so she just walks in, and she's like, hey, and then she's sitting there casually waiting for them to figure out what they seem like really incompetent guards. I know if there was an enemy, the enemy wouldn't walk up to the gate necessarily.
Well, I think the competent guards probably went with Jon.
Yeah, they probably
But he probably.
How many people went with Jon?
They said they had 10,000 there. So
they must have. Well, Jon didn't bring 10,000.
No. Jon didn't bring 10,000 at the north.
That makes sense. I was gonna say.
They said they had 10,000 there, so you'd think they'd have one or two people guarding the front door that were a little bit more.
It was weird. It was weirdly. I know it was played for comedy and it was funny, but it was just weirdly incompetent to be like.
Then we have to remember how many people that Jon has amassed in his.
He's amassed quite a few people.
Wall and the wildlings, and there's probably wildlings, and there's probably a whole slew of people.
Well, he sent a lot of those people to man the wall and everything. He's like, Tormund, go man the wall.
But those guys probably didn't. They probably weren't born and raised in Winterfell and know exactly who Arya is. Well, they know who she is. Everyone knows who the Starks are.
That's the thing. So much of the original North is dead. I think a lot of the people who are there are actually people that Baelish brought from the Vale.
Yeah, they're Vale people.
Yeah, so that might be the problem. But
but Arya and Sansa.
Arya comes in and she's like, "Hey, I want to find Sansa." And Sansa's like, "I know where Arya is. I'm having a Bran-like vision that she's in the crypts." So she goes down to the crypts and she's like, "Oh my God, it's Arya!" And then there's hugs and good. I don't know, how'd you feel about the family reunion?
It was sweet.
It was a sweet family reunion. Yeah, that's true.
I think it was deserved after all of the.
It was pretty satisfying.
Hard stuff they put through all of those.
Yeah,
people.
It was good that they had the family solidarity. They were back together again. It was everything. And I've always followed the theory for a long time. I've taken George R. R. Martin at his word, because everybody's always like, "Oh, there's Dany and there's all this stuff and there's the dragons and the White Walkers and all this stuff." And from the very beginning, George R. R. Martin has said that this series is a story about the Starks and the Lannisters. And I take him at his word.
Oh, yeah.
That will be the end game. That it will be between the Starks and the Lannisters, and everybody else just... So seeing the family reunion was really good. And then they go see Bran for a further family reunion. And she's like, "Oh my God, Bran, you're here." And Bran's like, Bran isn't here at the moment. He is now the Three-Eyed Raven.
Have a dagger. I'm currently looking at something else, reading the paper of the Seven Kingdoms.
I'm currently watching...
Have a dagger that Baelish gave me. I don't need it. My legs don't work.
I'm currently watching the Baelish Chaos is a Ladder channel.
Yeah.
Please come back later, but in the meantime, take this Valyrian steel dagger so you can stab White Walkers in the face.
Yeah.
Even though Brian seems like kind of uninvested, I don't know. He's completely consumed by these visions. He doesn't even seem to, like, to the point where he like doesn't even have motivations. He doesn't even care about like the war between.
What would be interesting to see is if he can control stuff as well as he controlled Hodor in the future.
Yeah.
When the White Walkers do end up coming.
Yeah. Well, there's a theory that I'm going to spoil right now. So spoilers. For crazy theories, though, not necessarily. This isn't necessarily confirmed, but there is a theory that the reason that the Mad King originally went red is because he's like a perfectly normal king, and then he started getting incredibly paranoid, hearing all these whispers, and started getting like thinking everybody was watching him and following him and everything, and that's what drove him mad. And we've already seen Bran in one of the visions he went back in try to talk to his father, and it seemed like his father could hear kind of like the echo of a voice. So the theory is that Bran will eventually go back in time and try to stop the Mad King from turning mad, and inadvertently be the thing that drives him mad by putting the voices in his head, similarly to how he did to Hodor. So there's
Wow.
There's one crazy theory for you.
That's deep.
Yeah. There's a lot of crazy theories like that. So
wow.
That's probably one of the more realistic ones.
Yeah.
Personally, one of my favorites, even though it was completely irrelevant, was the Roose Bolton is a vampire theory. But that's not really this episode. I think I just liked it partially because of the name, because the name of the theory was the Roose is loose theory. Which I just really enjoyed as the name of a theory. So.
Okay.
So, so she gets the Valyrian Steel Dagger, and I don't know what happens after that.
We were talking about Homecoming and like family reunions and Theon.
And Spider-Man was there?
Yeah.
No, that's different.
Theon and Jon, I saw them. I had no idea what was about to happen.
Oh, wow.
I was like, someone's either going to hug or get stabbed.
Yeah, when Theon and Jon reunited, I thought that it was going to be kind of the Han Solo Lando Calrissian thing, where it was just like, you son of a, give me a hug.
Yeah.
Kind of. Because I think it's hard to know where they stood, really, because it was just like, Theon did some terrible stuff when he was in Winterfell, but most of it wasn't, like, real. Like, killing him. He said he killed Bran and Rickon, and he didn't, so...
And up until that moment, I didn't really know how much Jon Snow knew about...
Yeah, he was up at the wall. What did he know?
Yeah. But I guess he was informed about everything, so yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, but he knew everything, and he knew, I guess Sansa told him that, Theon helped her escape from Ramsay, which is why Jon didn't take aggressive action towards him. Yeah. Why he didn't basically just stab him, so that was good, and while Jon's at Dragonstone, he's like, Dany, come here and look at all of this dragon glass. And we all thought exactly the same thing. And I think Cosmo was the one who said it out loud. The score at that moment was threatening really hard, playing the Jurassic Park theme. Complete coincidence that I'm wearing the shirt.
Really?
Like, I looked down at my shirt, I'm like, what am I watching? So it was weird. They like walk into the dragon glass caves and they're like,
Yes. Yep, I was waiting for a dinosaur to pop out, honestly.
That was really weird. Yeah. And then there's these really, really interesting hieroglyphics, these kind of cave etchings of the White Walkers and the Night's King. And I think whoever is in production that made them should be fired. And that's not because they're bad. It's the exact opposite. They're not bad enough. They were so, like, artistically present.
It's got to be like some stick figures. But they looked a lot like them.
It was like great likeness. It was like a police sketch artist happened to only have a cave wall.
Have you ever tried to sketch in a rock with a rock? It's difficult. It's hard to...
I don't know if I've ever tried to sketch in a rock with a rock. I'm pretty sure I've tried to sketch in a rock with a screwdriver before, which is probably similar.
Similar to... Yeah, well, they probably use like a sword or... they probably use dragon glass.
But let me tell you, anything that I... Like, if I use a screwdriver or a rock or anything like that, I couldn't have come up with anything like that. Or most... I don't think hardly anybody could have come up with anything. Like, it was like... It's a small complaint, but it was like borderline unrealistic that the cave etchings looked that good.
Well, they had to do some explanation or something...
Yeah.
But they're both so stubborn.
They are. Jon and Dany are both incredibly stubborn. And, John's like, help me win the war. And Dany's like, I understand now. I will help you win the war. If you bend the knee and you'll...
Help me win the war,
If you have your allegiance to me. And Jon's like, the North will never be allegiant to you because bad times. Bad things have happened in the North because of the South. They don't want no more of your kind. And Dany's like, do it anyway, because I'd like to do things by force instead of using my brain.
Yeah.
Because I'm an idiot. But then... to be fair, at the same time, Tyrion, who uses his brain all the time, all of his strategy is horribly wrong. Because I think it's only shortly thereafter, the scene where they're in the Dragon Glass, where Varys comes up and is like, "Oh, Dany, we took Casterly Rock. By the way, everyone's dead."
Yeah. So then she got all like hot and bothered about that, but then she goes, instead of trusting Tyrion, obviously she was upset at him.
Oh, yeah.
And
all of them were massive failures.
But she must have some trust and faith in Jon, because she asks him what he would do in that situation, or what should I do.
Well, he's impartial.
That's
basically
exactly, yeah.
You know who she really needed in that moment? Jorah, who wasn't in this episode, but he's on his way back.
Hopefully,
he's coming back, and it's gonna be interesting to see what he finds when he gets back to Westeros.
Yeah.
The war's gonna be like 3/4 of the way over when he gets back. It's gonna be interesting. But yeah, so she's like, and but they have Casterly Rock. They successfully took that, but the Unsullied are now stuck at Casterly Rock, held there by the Greyjoys, basically.
Yeah.
From the Sea Army. So nothing went well. So she's like, I'm gonna take my dragons. I'm gonna go to King's Landing and destroy them right now. And Jon's like, that's a bad idea.
Everyone was like, that's a bad idea.
Everyone's like, that's a bad idea. And she's like, Jon, is it a bad idea? Like a kid who's like, Mom, can I do this?
It's not a good idea.
Mom's like, no. And the kid's like, Dad, can I do this? And it's like, what did your mother say? Your mother said no. I'm going to also say no. Don't do that. Bad idea. Don't. Yeah, pretty much. Well, she didn't attack King's Landing, to be fair.
Yeah.
It was a smarter decision.
Yeah.
Strategically. Highgarden turns out to be the point of everything. But before we get to there, because that's kind of the final climactic scene, I think there was only one other thing that happened before that. Yeah, which was that there was a training scene between Arya and Brienne.
Oh, that was sweet.
It was pretty good. It was good combat, pretty good action. So we could see partially how far Arya has come. Because we've seen the theatricality of it with the faces and the poisoning and everything. But up until this point, we hadn't seen a true display of her combat skills.
Yeah.
So that was a relief. And so that went pretty well.
And Baelish's face when he saw that, too.
Like, Baelish did the Bran dagger thing, and then he showed up multiple times throughout the episode, and he always had, like, the same expression on his face, which was just like, I'm mildly amused, and I really want to say something to somebody about this, but I'm not going to because I don't want to ruin the moment.
I know, I want to know what's going through his head.
I think what's going through his head is just like, I am allied with the Starks, I want to take the kingdom, look at how good Arya Stark is.
Yeah.
If she's one of the assets I have, I could totally take the kingdom.
That's a valid possibility.
She's like, with Arya and Bran, the combined combat skills that they have, why even have anybody else fight the White Walkers? Just two on all of them.
She can't fight a war. She can protect people, but she can't fight a war.
It's true.
But obviously Arya doesn't need protecting anymore, but...
Well, I mean, what you do is you just...
Sansa has all the protection.
You just do, like, the backdoor reverse psychology, where you're just like, Brienne, please protect Arya while she's in the middle of this war.
Yeah.
And then Brienne doesn't really have a choice, but it was good. It was a good action scene.
I think they'll end up probably protecting Brandon and...
Brian,
and Sansa.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They'll probably just be like, Baelish, you're a grown man. You had the dagger. You chose to give it to someone else. Sure. You can deal with it. But it should be really interesting to see when they do get there. The White Walkers.
I think Baelish feels relatively safe.
Yeah, isn't it good?
I think he feels like he's surrounded himself with people who can protect him, and also with people that he genuinely likes, aka loved Catelyn, and therefore by proxy loves her family, and therefore by proxy feels comfortable around them to a certain extent.
But he doesn't have to fear for his life like he would have to in King's Landing.
Because you know what it was kind of like? Going back before we get to the final scene, my last kind of thought on this, when he gave Bran the dagger at the beginning, it was a little bit like a stepdad coming in. And then, I know I'm not your real dad, buddy.
But I love
But if I give you this gift, maybe if I start giving you gifts, you'll remember that your dad is beheaded and we'll be fine and we'll move on. It's kind of what it was like.
Wow.
So...
Yeah,
so that's kind of...
Yeah.
Then the last climactic scene happens. And, oh god, I'm just going to read these notes directly off, because I read this... When I was writing this, I was partially writing it in the voice of the WWE former commentator Jim Ross, just calling the action.
Oh my god.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, yeah, pretty well.
So, there's a battle at Highgarden, a massive, massive battle. The Dothraki are there, and also Dany on a dragon to attack Jaime's forces. So it was intense. It was the most intense battle I think we've ever seen in Game of Thrones. I think Hardhome's the only battle that comes close. I know everybody would say the Battle of the Bastards, but I never was like super high on the Battle of the Bastards. I was always a little bit like, the Battle of the Bastards is kind of just like a ripoff of Lord of the Rings, Two Towers.
It was cool, but there was no dragon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like Hardhome at least. I think Hardhome was cool because you had all the castle scaling stuff. You had they had that great panning shot of like Alistair Thorne having to battle with Tormund, and that was great. So, but this is like the coolest battle since then, definitely. And
I've been anticipating that since the baby dragons. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
I was like, I really hope Jaime's there. I really hope.
Yeah.
They get big and there's fire everywhere, and it didn't disappoint. It was crazy. A lot of people died. There was a lot of crispiness.
There was fire everywhere. It was crispy M&Ms.
Crispy Lannisters.
Yes. There was some hilarious. There were some mildly hilarious, inappropriately hilarious moments where the dragons set a whole like platoon of people on fire. Yeah. But because the fire only had a specific range, there were people like on either sides that weren't like on fire, and they had these weird expressions on their face, like, "Oh my God, we just made it out." A lot of people for as many people died, and a lot of people died. There's a lot of people who just kind of like barely made it out.
Yeah.
So.
Jimmy.
And apparently so.
Maybe.
So how does this battle go down? First of all, the dragons just start to destroy everyone. That's how it goes down first. They just right through the front line flank. Was
it just one or all three of them?
Just one was there. I'm pretty sure it was all three of them. I don't even know if anybody made a lot.
Yeah. I think it was just her riding the one.
Yeah. Luckily, for them, they had the foresight to bring one of Qyburn and Cersei's ballistas with them. Mm-hmm. I think she called it the Scorpion. I think that's what they were calling. I think when Jaime told Bronn to man it, Jaime was like, "Bronn, get on the Scorpion."
Can I make one backtrack? Money.
Yeah, money.
The bank.
Yeah.
You know what you can buy with all that money?
A lot of ballistas.
A lot of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. You could buy a lot of those. So that's Bronn gets knocked off his horse. Actually, his horse's leg gets cut off.
Yeah.
So that was intense. And he starts to show a lot of his combat skills and kills a lot of his people on the way to escape. And he escapes to the ballista, the Scorpion, to get the giant spear arrows, and he puts them in there and he starts shooting them. And then so there's a guy tracking him down, trying to find him, and he shoots that guy, which was supposed to be for comedic effect and for tension, but I also thought it was kind of weird because I was kind of like, it's kind of weird that you just use one of those on a regular man when there's a dragon outside. Yeah. Don't you have a throwing dagger or anything you can just use right now?
Well, he did throw it. He did throw it at a Dothraki on a horse already.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably out of ammo.
He was like, this is all I have. All I have is this giant ballista. I must use it. Yeah. And so Bronn hits one of the dragons with the ballista in the shoulder region.
Dany was really, really dumb to try and charge him.
That's the thing.
Killed probably. I would say the battlefield is maybe 90% covered in fire. Mm. So she probably had won that. She could have easily turned around and been like, "Yo, we won." Well,
that's the thing. He shoots off the first arrow and it misses the dragon. And then Dany's like, "What was that? He's aiming at us. We better go right towards him." And I'm just like, moving in a straight line towards an archer fundamentally with a giant ballista.
She hasn't had a lot of combat.
No, she hasn't had any combat experience really. So she always relied on people like Jorah or
and her dragons. So she just had the trust in the dragons. So
she's just like, Jorah saved me. Dragon fire.
Yeah.
Varys steel. Occasionally Tyrion help. Yeah. Or Lady Olenna or Missandei knows how to translate. Or she's never really done anything herself. For the other than theoretically make Drogo love her, but
that's true.
That's really about it. But
she freed slaves.
She did,
and got real lucky and got lots and
but
lots
to be fair, the way she one of the ways she freed the slaves is by using the Unsullied, and one of the ways she freed the Unsullied and didn't pay for them is by using the Dragonfire. So.
Yeah.
It was all kind of proxy stuff. She's using. I mean, we should give her some credit because she's using what's at her disposal. Yeah. Baelish uses what's at his disposal. Baelish usually doesn't do things personally.
A master strategist like Jaime or Tyrion or Tywin had the dragons.
I don't even know what you would do with that. How do you use strategy with dragons?
But she's not using any. Here's the strategy. don't charge towards the one thing that could possibly harm your dragon.
Yeah.
Turn away.
I could see Tywin thinking that. Tywin just be like, don't.
If Tywin or Jaime was on a dragon, I feel like they would say, well, let's burn everything and then go back where we're safe in King's Landing.
Mm-hmm. So Bronn eventually, because she's an idiot and charges straight at the ballista, he does hit the dragon in the shoulder and the dragon is grounded.
Yeah.
And then Jaime gets the stupidest idea
Oh my god.
anyone's ever gotten, which is an amazing idea, but also really stupid. He sees a spear, and he picks up the spear, and he's like, the dragon's grounded, and Dany's off trying to help the dragon. I should charge them down with the spear and try to kill them.
Well, he has so many balls.
He doesn't really have any options.
But he's really, really brave.
I mean, also theoretically, his only other option would be like, I'm going back to King's Landing.
But he probably could have ended the war if she died.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
But
Most
he
likely.
probably should have waited until they shot the dragon.
Unless, like, Missandei took the other two dragons and was like, aha, I am Queen Missandei.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yes.
I shall rule with Greymore, my king.
Oh, wow.
Would be weird.
For hypotheticals that could happen in the future.
There's a lot of things that could happen. And so Jaime takes this and he tries to spear Dany and the dragon. And the dragon looks up as if to say, this is a stupid idea, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And the dragon shoots fire right at Jaime's face. And Bronn does a save and he jumps out of the way and catches Jaime and saves him into the water. So they're safe.
Or sinking.
Yeah,
We don't really know yet.
Jaime's sinking to the bottom of a lake with heavy iron armor on and a large
ring.
piece of gold attached to his hand. So,
It should be interesting.
but
see what
as
happens.
things go, and that's when the credits hit with him sinking to the bottom of the lake. But as things go, he's safer there than he is on the surface with the dragon. So it was quite the episode for Bronn. Bronn was the real MVP, I think. He dodge rolled out of some dragon fire. He hit the dragon. He saved Jaime. Bronn really, really took over. I think he was probably.
He lost his gold.
He did lose his gold.
He did that all without gold, man.
He did. Well, I think that's the thing. I think they went for that moment. I was so afraid because there's a moment where his gold falls off his horse, and I thought they were going to go for the he's so greedy he goes for the gold and he gets killed thing. I thought they were going to go for that. Instead, they went for the he loves gold with all his heart. But he's not an idiot. He's got to survive.
Like, if I die, I don't get gold.
Pretty much.
We have enough back home.
Like, if I go back for the gold, this isn't going to go well.
Yeah.
So he was probably, I think, unless, is there anybody else in the episode who did great things? I mean, Arya's training scene was pretty cool, but...
I was kind of wondering why Tyrion was at that battle.
Yeah, Tyrion was at the battle in person, which is weird. He's, like, on the hill, like, overlooking it, you know?
He just wanted to see his brother? I don't know. Him watching that all go down was pretty intense. Because it was like my brother, the people I used to work for, and now the lady I do work for, watching that whole thing with Jaime, like, running towards her with the spear was just so intense. And Tyrion's face...
It probably wasn't. It doesn't even have to be there for a logical reason. It was just there for intensity.
Yeah, I think him being there, his face added the intensity to that moment.
His face, not at that exact moment, but earlier in the episode, a little bit earlier in the battle, it had this weird look on his face that was like kind of regret. Like when he was seeing the Dothraki kill all the Lannister soldiers, he was like, I never actually thought about what it would look like when a foreign horde killed a bunch of Westerosi knights.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that, and I kind of am feeling regret about it. That's kind of what his face was like.
Yeah, he's like, people... Yeah, it's awkward.
Yeah. He was like, Tywin was a terrible person, and Cersei's a terrible person, but...
I think he's realizing how kind of cutthroat Dany is becoming. Dany's definitely becoming that kind of
she's
ruler.
She's getting the aggression up to 10.
She's no Mad King, but she's definitely burning hundreds, maybe thousands, well, probably thousands of people to death.
No, she's not the Mad King yet, but turning the aggression up to 10, definitely one of the ways to start to get there, potentially. We'll see what happens, but so Bronn was great. Any final thoughts on that, other than Bronn being the man of the hour?
I really liked the battles and the questions that were answered in
Yeah.
the homecoming. It was a pretty feel good episode.
It was. There were moments where I thought it was going to be not as good as felt like an earlier, like season 2 episode, and we were promised that every episode this season would be like an amazing blockbuster episode. I was really concerned because it was a short episode too, but as far as things go, it was almost like it was only a couple minutes longer than like an actual like network show, hour-long show would have been, which would have been 42 minutes. It was only like 50 minutes. So.
Yeah. When we looked at the time when we first started, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I was hoping to be a little longer, but
yeah, it was. But to be fair,
they had to cut it there.
They
for the
put in
emphasis.
They spent a lot of time on the battle.
No, who's alive and who's dead.
Well, if you're lucky and if you really feel like it, maybe the next episode will leak, because apparently this episode leaked, but I have no interest in any of that.
I'll see you next week.
Spoilers or anything. No, we'll just wait till next week, it'll be fine.
See it next week.
As in the tension is, in the words of Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, the anticipation is terrible. I hope it lasts. So that's kind of the feeling on Game of Thrones going forward.
Yeah.
And for the moment, it seems like all my favorite characters are still safe, if you count sinking to the bottom of a lake being safe.
Yeah.
So, until next week, this has been Terrence and Roy at the movies, and Terrence will probably be back next week, I expect, and we'll talk more about Game of Thrones, and I don't know what we're doing this week. I don't know if any good movies are coming out or anything, but I have a couple ideas for some videos, so we'll see what happens. And tell us what you thought of Game of Thrones, and we'll see you next week.